Welcome to the MyClayCo studio. I am Tegan and today I am going to be sharing with you the polymer clay technique Sutton Slice using texture mats. The Sutton Slice technique was developed by Lisa Pavelka and it's basically the process of filling a texture mat with polymer clay and then transferring that onto another sheet of clay. So you can do contrasting colors, and when you pull up that texture mat, it reveals a beautiful raised texture. So I'll be sharing with you the clay and tools that you need, how to do the Sutton Slice technique, and a few tips and tricks for you, as well as how to clean your texture mats afterwards. All right, let's get into it. So you really don't need much to do this technique, so I'll just run you through what I have here. Now, the first thing I've got is my work surface, which is just basically a gloss ceramic tile. Next up, I have my clay. So we're going to be using this beautiful green as the base today, and this is essentially just a mix of all of the greens that we had in the studio. So sorry, I don't have a color recipe for you for that one. But what I have done is actually made a base clay, and then the clay that we're going to be filling this texture mat with, just a shade lighter. I'm also going to have a second option for us, which is this beautiful gold that I thought would also pair well. So this is actually equal parts of Sculpey Yellow Gold Glitter as well as Sculpey Antique Gold. I am also going to be looking at incorporating Sculpey Souffle Cherry Pie today. Now, of course, the other important thing that we're going to need are our texture mats. So I have a bunch of texture mats here that I have done the Sutton Slice technique with. And basically what I look for with a texture mat, there's two main things. So one of them is that you do want decent grooves in there. So if you have a really shallow texture mat, you might find that it doesn't actually work because the clay doesn't have enough imprint there to grip into. The other thing that you want is a texture mat that is flexible, because when we go to pull this up, we want to be able to really flex that texture mat so we can make sure that that clay stays on the other sheet of clay. You will also need a roller to help in rolling out your clay. Now, I do also have some ball tools here. These are optional and basically they are just to help push the clay into the groove. So as I said, they're optional, you don't need them, but I find them helpful from time to time. And last but not least, the other important thing that we are going to need is our tissue blade. So the tissue blade is going to help us slice off any of that excess clay. All right, we have all of our clay and tools ready to go, so let's get into the Sutton Slice technique. Now, a quick tip I did want to share with you before we get started is just about your tissue blade. So one of the things that we actually do is we pop some washi tape on the blunt end of our tissue blade, and it just means that it stops us from accidentally picking up the wrong end and slicing our fingers, because if you have ever had a tissue blade cut, they are not fun and it really gets in the way of you creating. So that is my quick tip, and we will now get onto the Sutton Slice. So I'm going to be using this Coral Cockatoo Poinsettia Christmas Flowers texture mat today. It is one that we have just got in stock. We're about to head into the festive season, so I thought this would be a fun one to play with today. Now, I have decided to challenge myself a little bit, and I am going to be doing one side of this in that gold color that I mixed up, but the other side I am actually going to try and do in a two-tone of colors. So trying to get the leaves in green and the poinsettias in red. I haven't actually tried this before, so I'm going to be pushing myself a little bit, but I thought it would give us a great option for basically a beginner Sutton Slice level and then a more advanced Sutton Slice technique. So let's start with this gold first, and all I'm going to do is just pull off a little bit here, and I'm just going to squish it all up, because I find that the more conditioned it is and soft and pliable, the easier it is for you to sneak it into these grooves. So I know a lot of the time we try and avoid really warm, soft clay because it makes it a bit harder to work with, but I find with this technique that it actually does help a bit. So all I'm going to do is start squishing this clay into here. And when I squish it in. My technique is almost to kind of like smudge it in. Smoosh it in. And this is where you can use the ball tools if you like, just to kind of press it in a little bit further. If you have watched our mold tutorial, you will know that we actually also do that with molds. It just makes it sure that it gets stuck in there real nice. All right, now then what we want to do is grab our tissue blade and we're going to slice off that top bit of clay. Now the way that I do this is I kind of do it in like a swivel moment, just going around like this and not trying to do the whole bit at once, actually just trying to do small bits at once. And it actually can be easier if you just even infill small bits at once and then go from there. So we're just going to start by slicing this off. And you of course want to be careful not to be slicing that texture mat. So you really just need to glide it along the surface. Okay, so I will just give you a little look at what I've done so far here. So you can see up close and you can see that it has infilled all of these little parts of the texture mat. So now what our job is to continue filling this. You don't have to do the whole texture mat. You can just do a portion of the texture mat, which is what I will likely do. But just fill out in the portion that you need and then we can go from there. Now, one tip I will give you with ball tools, and this is a question that we get asked a lot with flower making as well, is that when you are using a ball tool, I know a common issue can be that you get clay stuck to the ball tool. And so you press it down and then the clay comes back up with the ball tool. One trick you can use is that whenever you are pushing against the clay, keep it moving as you're lifting it up. So if you do just stop, there is the likelihood that then when you pull it away, it'll pull that clay with it. Whereas if you keep that ball tool moving as you lift up, you will lessen the chances of that clay actually coming up with your ball tool. Oh, and as you probably just saw, I actually accidentally just flicked out some of the clay that was stuck in here. So don't stress about that. All we're going to do is just smoosh that back in there and then we'll just slice that top off again. Easy fixed. And at the end of the day, if you do have, a small part of the texture mat that's not filled, or when you pull it up and it doesn't pull up properly, it just means that we don't use those bits. Now, this is why you need to do this very slowly and gently, because I just got a little bit ahead of myself just then. And I have taken an ever so slight little chunk out of this texture mat here. So go slowly and calmly. Don't be like me, try to rush through it, because we don't want to damage our texture mats. And if it is your first time, you might choose to do this with a texture mat that is perhaps not your favorite, so that if you do get any, minor little nicks like that, it's not going to be so devastating. And as you can see, I'm just ever so slightly shaving the tops off of these. Just running that over really lightly. So I'll just give you a look at that. We have a beautiful filled texture here. And now what my next job is, I'm actually going to swivel this around and I am going to try and do that 2-color option. So let's get this gold out of the way. And I'm now going to bring in my darker green as well as my cherry pie, and we will look at getting this bottom bit filled. Okay, our green is all done. So I'm just going to get rid of all of these little bits here. And then I'm also going to have a look at my poinsettias here and just make sure that there is no green infiltrating them. I'll just use this little clay chunk just to pop them out. Now, one thing that I do in between colors is I just use a baby wipe just to clean my hands, because baby wipes have a magical way of just getting all of the clay off of your hands in a way that water doesn't seem to. I guess because polymer clay is PVC based, it just kind of like beads on there. It doesn't quite get the other clay color off of there. So my hands are all clean now and we can head onto this red. And I'm just being exceptionally careful not to overfill these poinsettias and mix it with the green. So this is probably the bit that I need to have the most patience with. And patience is not my forte. So wish me luck. Okay, so let's have a look at this. I think that we are all ready to go. Before we do go ahead and transfer this onto another sheet of clay though, I am just going to show you my little hack for making sure that we don't have any of this stray clay that's kind of sitting around here. Okay, so this is my little hack. So I've got here just one of our silicone bowls and I've actually popped a tiny bit of isopropyl alcohol in there. Isopropyl alcohol will kind of like melt away unbaked clay. So what I will do is get this little cotton tip and I'm just going to find any bits that look like I might have some clay there, and I'm just going to gently rub them away with my tip here. Obviously, it's important to do the majority of this with your tissue blade, but if you do miss any bits, this is very handy in making sure we don't have any remnants on those other bits of the mat. All right, I'll give you a good look at that. I think we are all nice and cleaned up and ready to go with this transfer. You know, every single time I do this Sutton Slice technique, before I do the actual transfer bit, I always start slightly freaking out a little bit that it won't transfer well. And this time is no exception. So look, I'm sure it will all go according to plan. We'll transfer it on and it will end up looking fabulous. All right, so we have our texture mat here ready to go. What I'm going to do first is just with my base clay here, I'm just going to kind of burnish this down so that we have it stuck to our tile and it's not going to peel up. And then I am going to take my texture mat here. This is the moment of truth. I'm just going to flip it over. We're going to pop it onto our clay here and then just press it down. Now I will just anchor it in place here. And then I'm just going to roll over the top gently so that we get the clay that's in the texture mat to adhere to this clay sheet that we've got here. And the other thing that I like to do to be doubly sure is I'm now just going to actually press down across the whole mat. And we are now just going to peel this up. And this is why I said it's a really good idea to have a flexible mat so that we can flex it back. Ooh, and I can just see it there. And if you do find if some of the clay inside the mat doesn't stick, just put it straight back down again, push in there, and then hopefully the next time you pull it up, it will stay put, like this one here. Do you know what? If it doesn't, if it stays stuck in that texture mat, it's not the end of the world. Just means that we avoid that bit when we're cutting out our pieces. All right, so we're just going to peel this back. And already, guys, very excited about this. Just very slowly, kind of making sure that you're applying pressure as you pull it up. Oh, it's so pretty. See, I lost a little bit here, but that's no matter. It's fine. Oh, I love it. I love it. The golden green is beautiful. All right. Let's see how it did with my two-tone one. If I manage to pull it off. Oh, wow. Okay, it looks beautiful. Got a little bit stuck in the mat here. Did we manage to get it out? I think we did. Oh, there's another little bit stuck in the mat. I don't know if I can salvage that bit. Oh no, we're good. There we are. A gorgeous Sutton Slice technique. Alrighty, so I will just give you guys a really good look at this. Look how gorgeous that turned out. What do we think? Are we loving the gold or the red and green more? I don't even know. You tell me what you think in the comments. Now, our last step is to cut out these pieces, and then I'm just going to be giving you a couple of tips on how to actually clean the texture mat afterwards. Okay, so I promised you that I was going to show you also how to clean a texture mat once you've done the Sutton Slice, so let's get into doing that. Now, the first thing that I do is I actually use this scrap clay here, and I use that to try and get the clay that's stuck in the mat there transferred onto the clay. So all I do is just press away. Now, it won't get all of the bits out, but if you have a look here, see it's got this big chunk. It got that out of there. So all we do is just continue pressing down and trying to get out any of that excess clay before we move on to the next step. And if you do see that there are bits stuck in there, just kind of focus on that bit. So push down and you can see that they're instantly transferred onto there. So already you can see that the texture mat is a lot cleaner than it was a minute ago, but we do still have a few of these little bits stuck in the corner here. So I'm just going to get my needle tool and just carefully flick out what I can before we move on to the next part. We really don't have many bits stuck in here anymore, which is great. Cool, I think that is it. Next step, baby wipe. I am then going to get the baby wipe and I'm just going to drag that into all of these little crevices here and across my texture mat. Baby wipes are such a great handy thing for cleaning up anything polymer clay. My last step, I am back with my isopropyl alcohol and my little silicone bowl here again, and I'm actually just going to use the isopropyl alcohol with this little cotton tip just to get out any of those like last remnants that are there. Right, and as you can see, there wasn't much left on there, but there definitely still was a little bit of that clay in there. So that isopropyl alcohol on the cotton tip has got the remainder out. And we have our texture mat all clean and ready to be used again. I hope you've loved our Polymer Clay Sutton Slice technique tutorial today and you're already thinking about some of those color combinations and texture mats that you can use with this technique. If you did have any questions at all, as always, we are happy to answer them. Just pop them in the comment section below. And I would also love to hear which color combination was your favorite. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please like and subscribe. And if you did want access to extra content, some freebies and discounts, as well as our private Clay Friends community, then please check out our YouTube membership by clicking the join button. All right, we'll see you next time.